Welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast, where we talk about fitness, health, and anything to help you become the most optimal human beings. Let's dive into it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
Hey, how's it going, man?
It's going pretty well. We were just training together yesterday in person, like for reals.
Yeah, less than 24 hours ago. No, more than 24 hours ago. Time is weird because I'm back 2 hours on my regular time zone, my regularly scheduled time zone.
Yeah, you move around too much. You rarely know what the actual time is.
Yeah, pretty much.
So today we're going to be diving into wearables. We've had this conversation multiple times throughout the podcast history, and we're going to cover it a little bit more. And then if you're watching on YouTube, we actually have our screens pulled up to just kind of look at some of these devices and stuff, just in the browser on their websites, what they cost, what you can expect, so it can be a little bit more accurate. But I do think, we have a very unique situation as garage gym athletes because we are, mixed modal, multidisciplinary athletes. We do a lot of different things. Sometimes something is helpful for one type of athlete, but then not for another. So what I'm hoping to help every garage gym athlete out there answer is, what's your biggest bang for your buck if you're looking to get a wearable? And what's our experience since we've owned every single one that we're going to cover today? Joe's actually using two wearables right now. I'm using one. I just tried Whoop 4.0 for a couple months ago, just for like a month.
Did they just send you the new one? Because I know we're still grandfathered in, right?
Yeah, I just got sent the new one and I sent it back. So I don't. Well, hopefully we don't. I don't want to reveal too much too
it's
fast.
really good, right?
But no, we'll get into all of that. But first, I want to see if you had seen this, man. There's a news story exclusive. The World Health Organization's Cancer Research Agency to say aspartame sweetener a possible carcinogen.
I've seen some influencers talking about this a lot, and I've more so seen like some of the health experts or whatever, the people on Instagram that demonize this, and then I see people like Lane Norton who basically
drinks Diet Coke,
who attack those people who attack aspartame, and they're just like fighting at each other. I'm like, it's not, to me, it's not the end of the world. I don't think it's going to be one of those. Just to put my own 2 cents in, I think it's I don't think it's going to be that. I don't think that the aspartame sweetener is probably that bad for you. If you religiously drink, sodas, even with that, probably isn't the best. If you could eliminate them, then it's probably the best for you. But at the end of the day, calorie wise, it's not going to be, I don't think, that bad.
Yeah. Anyway. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I've been asked 2 questions lately. I was asked about this one by more than one person about my thoughts on Diet Coke, because I have a family member who religiously drinks Diet Coke, and they saw this and they asked me about it. And then I have also seen social media wars going on. So I just want to give my take on it, because I'm not a health, I'm not a nutrition expert or scientist, PhD on any of this crap. But I think I fall in alignment with what you said. Like, yeah, if you're drinking one every once in a while, probably not a big deal. But like, why consume it at all? Like, just cut it out. You know what I mean? Like, when they look into the research and they're like, oh, well, you'd have to drink 1,600 cans of Coke in a day to get the toxicity. I don't look at it that way. My view is like, oh, this is bad, I won't touch it. Like, that's it. It's that simple. Because I don't think humans work that way. You know what I mean? Like, if all humans worked the exact same way, we'd all die of the exact same cancer or the exact same heart disease at the exact same point in our lives, at the exact same time, the exact same way. But humans don't work that way. Some people get cancer, some people don't get cancer, some people get heart disease, some people don't. So I do, my opinion outside of science on this is like, who knows, 7 Cokes a week, 7 Diet Cokes per week for somebody who might be really sensitive to this carcinogen might end up with cancer. And then someone who's not sensitive to this carcinogen can have 37 Diet Cokes a day and not have a problem. And I don't like to play Russian roulette, so I'll just stay away from it altogether. That's my 2 cents as a non-expert opinion.
I avoid artificial sweeteners because I really don't think they're very good for you. And then when you tell the people like that are trying to limit their soda, and they go to diet sodas, and it's like, okay, well, I just can't give up this beverage. I still have to have it. So for those people, aspartame is whatever. But to me, it's like, okay, maybe the problem to me the problem is if you're so dependent on one beverage you can't even give that up. That to me is kind of an issue. Like there should be nothing like that that you can't give up. Like even coffee, I love coffee, I'm a coffee snob. I've given up coffee before. You just did it before too. You love coffee too.
I'm
And
not drinking
now
coffee anymore at all. I
yeah,
mean,
so
well,
like
occasionally.
yeah, so like you shouldn't
Not
be
caffeine.
that dependent on almost anything that you just can't give up, can't live without. So I'm gonna take this, possible carcinogen drink, even if it's complete BS. We've started drinking, or what we like to drink is uh oh, what the heck is it called? It's basically sodas, but they're sweetened with stevia. So it's a little bit. It's not aspartame, so it's a little
Zevia?
stevia's
Zevia?
stevia. Zevia? Is
Zevia
it
is
stevia?
like a
Oh,
brand, but
Zevia. Okay, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I knew it was close. So stevia is the sweetener, Zevia is the brand,
yeah.
and they basically just make imitation sodas from Zevia, and they're still like 0 calorie, still taste pretty much the same. You have that same like fake aftertaste, but diet sodas have a pretty bad aftertaste to me as well. So like there's not, and you get all the flavors that you want. And they even have our favorites, the cherry Coke, not not a sponsor to Zevia. Obviously, I don't even know their name. Um
Obviously, none of
so
these
yeah.
we're talking about a lot of brands today, and none of them are sponsored or paid for any of this,
Yeah.
just so everyone's aware.
But hey, Garmin, if you're listening.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, you're supposed to remain a secret. We're supposed to be
Damn
unbiased
it,
until the end.
unbiased. Okay. Yes.
So this is kind of the question of the week. I have another question I got asked, but we don't have again by a couple of people, and it had to do with running and muscle building. But we're gonna save that one for next week. So for today, this was kind of the question of the week. Now we'll get into what we want to cover. We're just gonna kind of go one wearable at a time, and I'll pull them up and we can kind of talk about them. But one that we both have experience with is the Aura Ring. Um, so you're actually still using the Aura Ring right now. Um, Emily, my wife, has the newest edition of the Aura Ring. She got it in December, and I have an Aura Ring. I've actually used it off and on quite a bit. I was even using it up until some of last year, but I haven't used it really any in 2023. Um, so I'm just going to go over the quick specs, and then we can talk about pros and cons of Aura Ring. So it is a ring, obviously. Um, they're a little bit more expensive up front than some of these other ones. So you're looking at the Horizon version can be $349, and you can get more expensive by selecting the gold version, which would be $499. And they have different styles. So you're looking at, maybe the cheapest being at $300 up to $500 or more if you're getting one of the crazy ones. And then the membership is $5.99 a month afterwards to maintain. Basically, keep all your data to get more of their features. So it says in-depth sleep analysis every morning, personalized health insights and recommendations, live and accurate heart rate monitoring, temperature trend monitoring as a tool to predict periods and to identify early signs of sickness. So what do you think of the Aura Ring? I mean, you must like it. You're still using it and you have a Garmin. So what are your thoughts on the Aura Ring?
I like it for some specific things. I'm at the point where I don't feel like I need it that much, but I'm still going to use it because I have it and it doesn't cost me anything. There are a few metrics that I do like to pay attention to, especially if it's traveling or if I start to feel either sickness or even like drinking and stuff. So there's a few metrics that I do pay attention to, and then it's one of those things that I'll dive into it if I wake up kind of feeling crappy, depending on what my workout is. It might dictate if I switch out a workout. So I do still like it. I think for some people that they might want to monitor, that they like it even more to monitor certain things. I know Liz really likes the Oura Ring and does it even more. So she um, will have like certain parameters that like if she doesn't get 6 hours of sleep, she's not going to go do certain kind of workout, or if her body temperature is too high, like stuff like that. She like really pays attention to it even more, and will edit how she trains and the like.
Yeah. What's the biggest con? Like, what do you not like about it?
That it's solely just for recovery and sleep, and we said it before that usually like when you get your, I pretty much almost don't even pay attention to. They give you a readiness score and a sleep score. Sleep score I kind of pay attention to, and I'll look into why I might have that. But readiness, like there's plenty of days where I'll wake up and like, man, I don't want to train today, and I got like an 85 readiness score. It's like or even vice versa. Like readiness score, we usually don't pay attention that much to, because I don't know how they go into their algorithms and how they do it. And I'll even compare readiness to, like, Aura will tell me, yeah, like, you're great. Go out and do a workout. And then Garmin will be like, you might need to take it easy today. You might need to do this. You might need to just do like a zone 2 kind of thing. So readiness scores are I don't really care about, but the other metrics that I like I said, the individual metrics are good, but the overall scores, I don't really pay that much attention to con-wise. Yeah.
I'll say
Not,
pros for
yeah.
me and using the Aura Ring. Great data. You could just put it on. You could only use it during sleep if you wanted to. I'll
That's
be
pretty much what I
100%
do.
honest. It's a horrible fitness tracker. Even their new one. I tried their new one because that's like the new thing. Like they said they could auto detect stuff and detect stuff. It's the worst fitness tracker. And I'm talking about like for training. Like if you want to train things, it's bad. It's a good step counter. It's a good sleep tracker. It's a good good if you just want a readiness score in the morning and then you kind of take it off and leave it next to your bed. That's probably the best way to use an Aura Ring.
Yeah, to me, it is not a fitness tracker.
No, like it can do almost nothing in the fitness tracking realm. It's not a good training tool if you're just looking for recovery. It's good for that, but overall, I would say I don't see it to be really helpful. And to be honest, Emily, she's not a big tracker, and she got this in December, and then she used it for like 3 or 4 months, and then like canceled her membership and like isn't that interested anymore because like that's how quickly she got everything she needed to know out of it. Like 3 or 4 months, and then she was like, "I get it. Like I know what to do, what not to do.
Yep.
Like I'm done." Like and it only took her like 3 months, and then she's like, "I don't really see the point in continuing to use this," which is a bummer because it costs a good amount of money, right? And she still uses it like periodically, but there's not a lot of utility after,
Yeah.
especially if you already have a lot of good habits. Because I think the only thing you really learn when you're tracking like heart rate variability is don't eat too late at night because your body's going to be digesting. So your resting heart rate's going to increase, which will decrease your heart rate variability. And I think everyone should memorize that correlation. If you have an increased resting heart rate, you have decreased heart rate variability. They will go in conjunction with one another. So like if you were running as fast as you could and your heart rate was 175 beats per minute, your heart rate variability would be very low. It's just like the lowest it probably could be. And the reason I say that is because anything that could possibly increase your resting heart rate before you go to bed is going to decrease your increase your resting heart rate is going to decrease your HRV. So drinking alcohol is going to do that. Eating late is going to do that. If you're really stressed or whatever, like all these things. I mean, once you kind of know that, just try and avoid those things. Don't drink before bed. That means you should do all your drinking early in the morning. First thing when everybody wants to, like just wake up and start chugging those beers, and you'll be good by nighttime. No, so I mean, I think that's basically all you need to know. I would say that this is not an awesome device for garage gym athletes. It's good if you have one. I don't hate on it. Like I said, I've already wasted my money on all these things. So, but if you're looking for a training tool, this is not it. It's just more like a recovery tool.
Yeah. So I'd say probably the only reason why I still wear it is because we got it. We were on the ground floor and we're grandfathered in as well, so
Right.
we're not paying for membership. I had the very first gen, and my battery was basically not holding a charge, so they sent me the new one like for free. So I have the new one, so I use it, and that's the main reason why is because I'm not paying for it anymore. I got the new one, and it's a good tool to have, but I think if not if you're getting into fitness, or if for some reason your life is changing, you're not recovering well, you're having some difficulties or shift work or anything like that, and you need to kind of like dial in more, I think it's really good to do that for 3 months, especially if you haven't done any tracking in the past. We've been tracking for 7 years now, or 8 years now, I think. I don't know, whatever it was.
Way too long. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're just used to it. But if you've never really tracked before, then it would be good, like what Emily did, do it for 3 months. Okay, now I kind of know what certain feelings mean and how to do things. Then good to go. Turn it right off. Maybe even like once a year progress check, and that's about it.
And she will
Just
say,
for dialing it.
or I will say that she told me from the female perspective, it was actually pretty good at period tracking and predicting and
Yeah.
all that stuff. She keeps track of, and she has for years. She keeps track of all that stuff separately. So she already like has her own way and method of doing that. But she did say it was like fairly
Yeah.
accurate with what she was already tracking. So
Yeah. Liz
kudos to
used it.
them for figuring that out, I guess.
Liz had it and used it. As I think maybe the first reason why she got it was for track ovulation and stuff.
Yeah. All right. So Aura Ring. What I don't know what to give this. Like if we're rating like let's do like A B C D
Well,
E or A B C D F. Like fails, not good for garage gym athlete. A is like hit it out of the
oh,
park.
so just for garage gym, like the total encompassing garage, because like
For the garage gym athlete community, yeah.
Okay. Oh wait, we're doing letters.
Yeah, like grades in school.
Okay.
Because I'm not gonna say it's like no good, but like
Yeah.
how good is it? You know?
Either C plus or B minus.
Yeah, I'm leaving it in the C,
Yeah.
solid C, maybe even a low C, just because um if you're an athlete, like if you're doing our training, you're going to want to track your stuff. You want to see your heart rate when you're lifting the barbell without having to scratch it up when you get on a pull-up bar, all this kind of stuff. So like, I think for you're probably going to want to track your training, and the Oura Ring is just not it. So that moves us into our next heavy hitter. We have a lot of experience here, the Whoop, and they've kind of taken the world over. So Whoop. They changed their model. They used to be like Oura Ring, and now it's a membership model. So you can actually get like 30 days free. And then I think the pricing, yeah, it's like $30 a month or something like that. So here they are. Annual membership is $239 if you pay up front. So that'd be $19.92 a month. $30 a month if you want to do monthly, but it's a 12-month minimum. And then the 24-month membership is $399 or $1663 per month. And it does a lot of different stuff. So the Whoop
Except tell time.
has its pros and cons. And it's really big on the recovery. It's kind of like it's a more athletic version of the Oura Ring. So it gives you a recovery score every day. It gives you a strain score, and it even has kind of like a strain coach. So it'll be like, oh, you're so recovered today, you should hit a 17 strain today. And then it's saying that you should like shoot for that. Anyway, so it monitors sleep. They just added this. I actually saw it. They monitor and manage stress levels. So it monitors your stress. And I just said, shout out, who's been doing that for like a couple years? Garmin. Garmin's been doing stress levels forever. Whoop just added it recently. And yeah, they track your respiratory rate, blood oxygen levels, resting heart rate, HRV. They give you the recovery score. So pros and cons with the Whoop. Like I said, I've used it even more recently, and we both used it over the last couple of years. I mean, we were honestly some of the first early adopters to Whoop.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on Whoop?
So like with Whoop, when I remember when I had it, is it's a glorified heart rate monitor. So think of like if you have a chest strap or just monitor your heart rate, it's the one you wear all the time, but you wear it on your arm, but it doesn't do anything else. It just does your heart rate. You're not gonna tell time. It's not a watch. So then you have to wear a watch on top of that. So you're wearing something on both wrists,
Yep.
and especially like if at night, I mean we have an alarm clock that projects the light onto the ceiling, so it doesn't like you're not actually seeing the light, you're seeing the projection. Because I like to know what time it is at night or when waking up. So, but I still will wear my watch at night so that I can see time or do whatever. But I remember not liking having two things on my wrist at night. But that's what you
Yeah.
have to do, because if you want to get the sleep metrics on on Whoop, you have to wear it at night. And then if you also like to wear a watch for whether you wake up at night, you used to do alarms, silent alarms on your watch that would just
Mm-hmm.
vibrate to wake you up. So
Yeah.
you're wearing two watches and it's a pain.
Whoop
I
can
think
do
I
that
also
now, though. They did add that feature in
alarm.
4.0. So it has a vibration alarm.
Oh, well, I guess that's useful, especially for you.
That you set on your phone.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have a screen.
Yeah.
Let's be real clear about that.
Yeah. I don't know if their battery life has improved. I did their at least they
better.
made
Yeah.
At least their charging system makes a lot of like actually is kind of cool, because you don't have to take it off. You charge this little puck that slides over top of it, and then you take that puck and you put it on top of your wrist. So like it makes it chunky, but you're still wearing it. It's not like you have to. It's not like the Apple Watch where you have to take it off, put it on your charger, and then come back later and get it.
Yeah, I would say that if we're talking just battery, they win there with, and I'm not talking about battery life. I'm talking about that recharge capability you're talking about because like,
Hmm.
Apple Watch, Garmin Watch, Aura, they all have to be taken off to be charged, which is really, I mean, let's be real, it's not that big of a deal to take something off
Yeah,
for a short amount of time for it to charge or whatever. But I did think that their charging mechanism was cool because it does just like slide on and there you go. It's got a picture of it right there. It's just a
yeah.
battery that goes on there, and then you never really have to take it off. So I would say this one is pretty solid for the garage gym athlete. It is. I still throw it like in that Aura camp. Like when I don't feel like if we're talking Garmin and Whoop, I don't feel like we're in the same category. I feel like we're talking almost about different things. But when we're talking about Whoop and Aura, I feel like they're the same thing. So Whoop is really just there to give you um your recovery score in the morning. I mean, that's what most everyone cares about. It has a lot of other health metrics now too. I think their strain coach is kind of silly because I don't know. I just didn't. I don't see that there's a lot of benefit in the strain coach. Like, oh, you're really recovered. Go work out harder today. When most of the time I'm just following a training program and I don't want to move my days around. I just want to be like, no, I'm doing what I'm doing today because that's what's already planned. And I don't feel like I need to like save myself for a certain day or whatever. So the Whoop is pretty solid. One thing that they did change that I used to have a lot of gripes about was their HRV used to be only taken during the last stage of your last deep wave sleep in the night for like a minute. And that was it. That was the whole HRV that gave you a recovery score. And they say all this other stuff is factored into the recovery score, but it's like they don't release the algorithm, but it's got to be like 80, 90% HRV. And then they factor in sleep and everything else. Cause I've had some shitty nights of sleep and I had like super high HRV and they were like, you're ready to
They
go.
do.
And I was like, I don't
Yeah,
really feel like it.
I remember
Um,
theirs being very erratic.
yeah, that's what I ended up hating about the Whoop. But they did. I pulled up this article because it was updated June 19th of this year, and I'll pull it up here. Basically saying that they still do that, but it's a weighted measurement. It says Whoop calculates your HRV using a weighted average each night while you sleep, measuring using a weighted average throughout one sleep, giving more weight to periods of slow wave sleep. Again, I'm sure they have some research behind it. I don't know why you wouldn't just throw in why the hell you do that. You know what I mean? Like they just like that article ends right there. That's it. That's the end. And that's how it's always been. They just kind of tell you like that's how we do it. They don't say like, "Oh, well, the latest scientific research says that there's a correlation between your last
Yeah,
or your deep sleep and HRV as opposed to an HRV average over the entire night." They don't really talk about the why. And I'm sure that they pulled it from somewhere, but in my experience, doing that caused, yeah, for very unusual readings, things that wouldn't make sense. Like if your training is kind of the same for the next 4 weeks and everything else is kind of the same, it doesn't make sense to have a red day all of a sudden and then a green day and then a yellow day and then 2 red days and a green day. Like it just doesn't actually really make sense. So that's why I ended up sending my Whoop back. It did not feel like a solid training tool. I feel like it's so retroactive. It's looking back, right? It's like you can see what you did, what happened, but you can't like project forward about what you should do or anything like that with your training. That's my biggest gripe with Whoop, but it far outweighs Aura in the sense of what Aura could do. This is definitely built more for athletes. Would you agree?
yes, 100%.
Yeah. So where would you rate the Whoop on the scale that we're giving today?
I'd probably give it a mid B.
Yeah, that's where I will put it. A B, mainly because if you're a garage gym athlete and you're not actually leaving your garage that much, then the Whoop can work out really well because you can just pull up your phone and you can have the Whoop and it does like live heart rate
Yeah,
and stuff, and you can see that, and you can even take it on runs. I like set it up on my bike when I used to bike with the Whoop, and it can track your route and all that kind of stuff. So as long as you have your phone, the Whoop is still super useful. And so if you're not leaving your garage that much, I give it a B for that reason. But the second you want to leave, like if you're trying to do any heart rate based training,
I was
in
gonna say
any
zone training is possible
yeah,
almost.
like any heart rate based training, or if you want to know like where you're going, or you want to see your pace for the mile, like anything like that. I mean, which just blows my mind that don't care about any of that stuff. Anything like that, and Whoop is immediately at bottom of the barrel here as a wearable.
And I don't know if they have the capability, but they can you project your heart rate from Whoop?
Like to
Because
other
I know,
devices,
yeah,
yeah, I
so
think
that
you
you can
can
see it.
now.
Okay,
They used to make it to where it was like no, it was like proprietary. They also wouldn't allow you to integrate with like Apple Health and stuff. They were trying to be
yeah,
super stingy, but I think they got enough of a foothold in the market that they started to open these things up. So I think you could project your heart rate.
yeah,
Then I think it integrates with Apple Health now as well.
yeah, which is useful if you have like some machines would do that, but if you're going on a run, you wouldn't really have that unless there's maybe a watch that it would act as your heart rate monitor.
Yeah. So I'm giving it a B minus, and you're giving it
Yeah.
a B.
Yeah, because
A big
and the
B.
last part reason why I upped it from a B minus to a B is because I do remember enjoying their community aspect. We had a team,
Yeah, that was
a
cool.
Whoop team, and I remember going on there all the time, looking at, especially because like for there was a cycle where we all had Whoop, like all the coaches had Whoop, and we were all doing hard to kill, and we get on there, and it's like I know what training day they just did, and like we would see whose metrics are what, and that was kind of cool, and I know that there's other people that are on Whoop now that I'm friends with. And they're talking about how they wake up and will check their friends metrics and stuff like that, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's one of the coolest features of Whoop. They have really mastered that community aspect and kind of gamified fitnessing with your friends. Like strain scores better, who slept better,
yeah.
all those kind of things. All right, so solid B. Now I'm actually just gonna pull up. I don't have this. My father-in-law has it. I've been checking it out. Very interested ever since it came out. So the Apple Watch Ultra. You seen this thing?
No, actually, I mean, I've seen people wear it, but I haven't really looked into it.
Yeah. So it's a $800 Apple Watch. It's their competition to what I would say is Garmin. They're trying to compete with Garmin with this watch. It's 49 millimeter titanium case. It's water resistant, dust proof, all this stuff. You have to get the GPS plan with it, or the cell plan with it. You cannot buy this without it. They require it, and so overall, um, having had an Apple Watch and then been checking out my father-in-law's lately, because to be honest, I'm not going to buy one of these, because I came to the same conclusion after checking his out and asking a bunch of questions and scrolling through some things. An Apple Watch is an Apple Watch is an Apple Watch.
Hmm.
Um, and so ultimately, they had a revolutionary breakthrough with their battery life, and it now lasts 2.5 days. Um, so they went from the regular Apple Watch lasting about 18 hours to maybe 24 if you're lucky, to the Apple Watch Ultra, much larger, much better battery. They say 3 days.
That's
My,
like
my, my
just
father-in-law,
regular
who's
three
not
days,
even
not
like
GPS.
an adventurer, he's saying it's like 2.5 days. So anyway, this is the Apple Watch / Apple Watch Ultra that we're kind of reviewing, because you had an Apple Watch, didn't you have an Apple Watch?
Yeah, it was like first gen.
Because I guess I had mine more recently. Um, I think up until 2020. So I haven't had one since then. 2020,
Yeah,
2021, maybe something
I
like
think
that.
I got mine in 2017, and it wasn't even it wasn't even like the latest gen at the time, and that's when I paired it with Whoop. So those are the two watches that I wore at the same time.
Yeah. So overall, Apple Watch is great. I think that they do a lot of great things. Like I have it pulled up on the screen right now. They do like you can track your heart rate zones. Um, I I have not tried the newest new Garmin's, but as far as I have experienced, the best wrist-based heart rate monitor on the market is Apple's Apple Watch. It is the most accurate from just being on your wrist, which is saying something, because I feel like no other company's really been able to master that. And so, yeah, the Apple Watch, pretty solid. My opinion, it can do all the training stuff. Not it's great for tracking your workouts. So it's a leg up on a Whoop and an Aura. So you can like see in the moment, you can like see your mile pacing, all those kind of things. So that's definitely a huge plus. It doesn't have as much in the way of recovery, They do have like their own sleep tracking app. You used to have to do that through third party. Now it's built in, but they're not sharing. They don't have. It's not as athlete based. And to be honest, that's not who. To be honest, it's not my. I don't think that's who their market is. I think the Apple Watch Ultra might be trying to get geared towards more athletes, but at the end of the day, it's whether it's an Ultra or just a regular Apple Watch, it's not truly geared towards an athlete, in my opinion. I think it's just people want a cooler looking Apple Watch, and they get this one. But it doesn't have like you don't wake up with a recovery score, or look at your load or any of those kind of things, and it can do
Mhm.
HRV. What's your opinion on the Apple Watch?
So again, this is my first gen opinion when I had it. I did like certain things about it. It's an Apple product. I'm an Apple person. All of our laptops and phones are Apple, and but one thing that I remember not liking was, especially on runs, is that you get nice and sweaty, but it was just a touchscreen, and touchscreens when you're sweaty don't really work that well.
Yeah,
I see they actually have a button and a scroller wheel, so that to me is
they
really
fixed
nice.
that problem. Yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. The titanium case also better. Like, okay, it's going to be tougher. That's great. So I think you're getting into now the realm of, okay, what do you want? Okay, if you want a smartwatch, then you actually do stuff on your watch. You're changing your music. You're going through you're scrolling through your stuff, whatever you want to do. Reply to things. Then Apple Watch is great. I don't use my watch for that. I never use it that much for. There was like a point where I was like, hey, cool, I can text or like speak to text, and I use it for a little bit. It's like, well, I'd rather just use my phone. So that's cool. I'm not sure how I was wondering how their GPS would compare. I'd have to watch like DC Rainmaker comparable video, because they do.
pretty
Some of those
solid.
guys will wear
Yeah,
multiple on the same run.
right.
So um, I think it is cool. So it just depends on what you want. If you want certain smartwatch features, I could see it being pretty good. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. It's like if you're more uh, if you're less athlete and more just want some general life watch, then this is going to be superior. Even
yeah,
if you're, I'm not saying you're like not an athlete. I'm just saying if you're like, my watch doesn't need to be predominantly for being an athlete. Like I want it to be able
yeah,
to do other things. You probably can't beat the ease and usability of any Apple product, right? It's just like it's going to connect to your heart rate monitor and your headphones first try, and there's not going to be any problems, and the music's going to be super easy to control, and
mhm,
everything's going to be super intuitive and awesome. Like that's what you can expect with all the Apple Watch stuff. So I think the Apple Watch is great, amazing heart rate based stuff. They are lacking kind of on the athlete side, even though they have ways to track your workouts and stuff. But that's kind of that might be the con, is I think the Apple Watch is trying to do too much, right? They're trying to do too many different things. And I think fitness tracking is kind of fitness, athletic, that kind of stuff is a part of it, but it's I don't know, 30% of what they're trying to do, and not the 70% that they're focusing on all the other tools that it can do, like open up unlock your computer, unlock your car doors, and all sorts of crazy stuff that these things can do. But overall, I would say it's really good. I really liked my Apple Watch when I had it. I hate the integration between my phone and all that other stuff. I don't like that. Even with Garmin can do those things with like text messages and stuff. I turn all those things off unless I'm traveling. That's the only time I turn it on, or I don't have to be looking at my phone ever. But yeah, I don't like those things. If you like that, you like seeing messages ding on your wrist all day, Apple Watch is for you. It's what
yeah.
you want to get.
I'd also say that Apple is great in its functionality. It's pretty user friendly, but I think it lacks um, customization. Apple's always been very stingy with customization. Like, they don't let third party or outside people do like create their own things and then put it on the online, which Garmin does. So if you want to look for watch faces, you could look for through their watch faces for 3 hours and not see them all, and they're constantly getting new ones. And like, programmers, and I even got like certain programs on my Garmin that somebody created. They sent it to Garmin, and then Garmin made it public. Like, here, you can download it and add it to your watch. There you go. Apple doesn't really do that, I don't think. And like with the screens, when you go back to how the workout view screens look, pretty much the same as they looked before. I know they have that zone two, that zone indicator, but to me, their workout screens are still pretty plain, and
Yeah.
I don't really like. I like the Garmin screens during the workout, how you can put how many the different views and screens, and they even have graphs now. Now that I mean, I don't want to get too much into Garmin, but like stuff like that, certain personalizations and views that you can customize. Versus Apple almost like makes the decisions for you. It's like, here's what we think is best. So this is what you're going to have the choices of.
Yeah, not as much customization for sure. Where's your rating?
That's hard. I mean, I guess if you're an Apple person, then probably A minus.
I would go the same. I go A
Yeah.
minus because I can't.
That heart rate monitor is that really is a big plus.
It's a huge plus. The only thing I wouldn't like it for is if you're getting like way more serious as an athlete. And I'm going to talk about some of those things with the Garmin, but if you're getting way more serious, but that now we're getting into like whatever, top 5%, top 2% of users really, like
Yeah.
most people aren't going to care. So I would say for the garage gym athlete, the Apple Watch is great. You can use it for everything. You can track everything. You can use it with your phone, without your phone. Especially if you get this one, like you can even still call while you're out on your run and you don't even have
Yeah.
your phone with you. So I think that those kind of things are huge. Pretty awesome. So definitely an A minus. That one's
Yeah.
Apple Watch is really solid.
I know when I had mine, they didn't have any recovery metrics. They didn't have sleep or anything like that. So I have no idea how that is now or how it compares either.
They just added it back. I've been looking at some reviews of that, and it seems okay. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I think almost anything can track your sleep at this point. But now let's hop into Garmin. It's almost hard to hop into Garmin because there's so much to hop into. They have so many different types, brands. Like we couldn't even come close to covering it all
Yeah.
right now. Which one are you wearing right now, Joe? You have a Garmin.
The Phoenix 7. So the first gen regular Phoenix 7, not Solar X Pro, just well, the pros just came out this month or a
Right.
couple weeks ago. So the first gen is just the regular Phoenix 7.
So not the S either.
Standard edition right there. That's exactly what I have.
This one right here. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you have that one. I have the Phoenix 7X Solar, I think is what it's called.
And Liz has the 7S.
Okay, so good. I could just flip through here. So yeah, this is the one you have, and the one I have is the 51 millimeter sapphire solar. Yeah, 7X.
Yeah.
That's the one I have. All right, so those are the ones we're specifically talking about. But I will say, if you go, you can do a lot of good things with Garmin. Like I have friends, all my friends have Garmins and stuff. The Phoenix is awesome. The Epix is awesome. I think the Forerunner is pretty amazing.
So the Forerunner is essentially the Phoenix, but with a plastic housing instead of like the Phoenix has a metal, steel, whatever, aluminum house, whatever the metal is housing. Forerunner just has like a plastic one, so like it's less on durability, but it's also but the entire computer and functionality is exactly the same. It's just how
And the
durable do you
screen's way
want
better.
your watch to be? Yeah, and it's cheaper too than the Phoenix. So just a thing on
And
that.
I don't know much about the Vivio Active, to be honest. I know people with the Forerunner and I know people with the Epix and the Phoenix, but the Instinct and Vivio Active, I don't have a lot of experience with.
I feel like the Vivo Active is probably the cheaper version of the Epix. It doesn't have buttons on it. It's just a touchscreen though.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I'd like that.
Yeah.
So we're primarily talking about Phoenix, but pros and cons. What do you like about Garmin?
Battery life is a total pro for me. When I switched to the regular instead of the X, I just a smaller wrist. I think it's actually pretty comfortable, even though it seems kind of big. It's still pretty dang comfortable. The GPS is fantastic. That was like the biggest reason why I switched to the Phoenix from the Apple in the first place. I switched to at the time it was the 5X. So that's fantastic. The as I alluded to before, the workout screens and the customization, how you can do those. You can do whatever screens you want. You can have how many fields you want. They have graphs now on it, and you can just keep adding screens. I probably have 5 different screens on my run thing, depending on what the heck I'm doing, just because I can. So all those are fantastic. I also think um, long life durability. Like you can use these forever. People in our community still use the 5 generation, and it's still completely fine. They update it for several years. And like I think the 5 might be getting out. Like they might stop that in a little while, but it still works completely fine. And so I know the 7 I'll probably still get unless I decide to upgrade. I can still use it for at least 5 years because the 5 the 5X when I got it, it was already like 3 or 4 years old, and I used it for at least 4 years or 3 years. So
Yeah, now they are more expensive up front, but there are no membership fees, right?
yeah,
The Whoop, I mean, the Whoop is going to cost you $30 a month for like how long are you going to wear that? 2 years, and you've got yourself one of these watches. And I've been wearing Garmin since 2020. And my biggest gripe with them originally coming off of like Aura Ring, Whoop, that kind of stuff was its lack of a like recovery score
mhm.
back in the day. Or I would say even like a year ago, they didn't really have that kind of feature. It was like you could kind of piece it together yourself because you could look at like, okay, here was my sleep, here was my resting heart rate, here was my HRV. But they added this, I think it was sometime last year. They added training readiness, and then it gives you a score. And this
And
score is based off of your sleep, your recovery time, your HRV status, your acute load, your sleep history, your stress history. So they're taking in a lot of factors there, which I now think they have the best recovery score on the market because of how many different things that they're looking into. It's not an 80% weighted HRV reading that like Whoop does, and then they say your whole day screwed up. Um, Garmin very rarely tells me I'm not ready to train. Like very rarely. I honestly don't know if it's ever happened because it's looking at so many different things. Maybe if like my stress levels are high, my sleep history was crappy, and my recovery time is way too high, maybe it would tell me that I should like take a break or like not do something that day. And then they also added the morning report, which kind of summarizes everything I was just talking about. So you wake up in the morning, and then it gives you this full morning report about how your sleep was, your HRV, and all those kind of things. And so that used to be my biggest gripe with Garmin is the lack of recovery. They have, in my opinion, become the best on the market now with giving you some sort of readiness or recovery score. And it's just a really cool feature overall.
yeah, I've definitely like it, and everything they add, and they keep adding stuff, and usually get the updates kind of free, usually once a year whenever they do that. Their sleep is a bit less accurate usually right now. So after last night, between this and Aura, there's only a 3 minute difference, which jokes. There's a lot of times where it is pretty close, but there's some times where I'll get something wildly inaccurate with on Aura or on Garmin, which is usually not a big deal. For because I don't really get that picky about the sleep. I'll look at the other metrics. I have started to like the other things like for the longest time training status, and when I had my 5, it wasn't very good at all. I'd only get like 2 different things, but that's gotten better over time, and so has, like I said, training readiness. I think is also pretty solid.
So the training status will tell you if you're maintaining, detraining,
Yeah.
if you're at an optimal level, all those kind of things. And that's what I want to talk about for that more serious 5%, 2% athlete or whatever. There's kind of two things. And I don't know if this has been added to your watch. I don't have the newest, but I have the second newest right now. This is one of my new favorite features. Let's see here. They have, it says for the Forerunner, but it's on multiple different options, multiple different models. Like I have the Phoenix 7X. They now have something called the load ratio. And so one thing that Garmin does at the end of every workout is it will give you a load score. So if you did something that was really high heart rate, it doesn't really matter what it was. It could have been running. It could have been a high intensity workout. If it's really hard, you're going to get a higher score that goes to your overall load, right? And then if you do something like a long aerobic run, it's going to give you a moderate training score, whatever. But what they added was a load ratio. So Garmin's always tracking your overall load, and they kind of have a window that you should be in to like improve, which was kind of helpful, but like also not really. But this load ratio is incredibly helpful. So load ratio is what it does is it divides your acute, your short-term load, so like over the last 7 days, with your chronic, your long-term load, like over the last month. And it might say there more specifically or whatever. But the reason this is so helpful is because if you're starting a new training program and your chronic load over the last month has been relatively low, then and you all of a sudden start increasing and you go above the threshold, you get into like 1.5 or 2 or 1.9 or whatever, you're probably going to get injured. Like you are flirting with injury. You're adding too much volume too fast. You're adding too much intensity, too much training time, all this stuff too fast. So I feel like the load ratio from helping you plan out your training and slowly progress your training is phenomenal. And I say this as someone who's just started adding more significant running back into my program, and I went super slow. I started like 5 miles a week, and then I did 7, and then I did 10, and then 12, and then 15, and then right now I'm just at 20, and I'm holding at 20 miles per week for a while. But I did that because I was just watching my overall load because I'm still doing other things, right? And so I think that their load ratio is an amazing thing. And then like they have this acute load versus chronic load like article you could read about if you want to like see how it looks. But overall, they're just like kind of comparing like they have this window of like where they think your overall training load should be. So it has all the great things that an Apple Watch has, like great GPS. It has good sleep tracking. I can go out and run and I can see I'm running an 8-minute mile pace, right? I can just see that right there. Very easy to do zone training. All I need is my watch. The biggest con with a Garmin is the wrist-based heart rate kind of sucks. That's its biggest con. But everything else is good. And then when we're getting into more serious, like, hey, I want to look at my load. I want to make sure that I'm training appropriately. I have enough stimulus. I'm not adding too much stimulus too fast. That's where Garmin is just knocks it out of the park. And I put them in a category of their own, even though they are more expensive depending on which model you get. Like I said, the Forerunner is pretty awesome. Vivio Active looks cool, and then the more expensive Epics and Phoenix are the best in the business.
I so I can find it on my phone. I can't find the how to add it to my watch screen, the acute load, because I know I've seen it before. And when I go in to like actual training stuff, like training status, and from there I can go to my load. And it tells me aerobic, high aerobic, and low aerobic, and those zones and training and such, and the graph. But I can't get it on my thing. I'll have to figure that out. But that is cool. I've only just recently discovered that because it wasn't on my watch, and that it keeps telling me that I have a high aerobic shortage. So I know it's something to at least try and improve. But it is pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's actually even different. So that I didn't even mention that. So the load focus will tell you basically if you've had enough time in different heart rate zones. So like whether you're high aerobic or basically zone 2 or anaerobic, like you need more short burst stuff. This newer feature is just chronic load. It's like in its a category all in its on its own of just like, and it's a number between 1 and 2 basically, like, and it goes in decimals. So where would you rate the Garmin? I think
Definitely an A. It's
yeah,
definitely an
A plus plus. I don't like that their risk based heart rate kind of sucks, especially for like garage gym workouts. But that doesn't make me equate it out to like an Apple Watch because of all of its other features. So I give it an A plus. I don't think there's anything better on the market for the garage gym athlete. Any version really of any kind of Garmin, get that or an Apple Watch. We kind of giving you the pros and cons of all the other ones as well, like things you should be thinking about. And again, these are just our opinions. If you own one of these things and you like it and it works for you, keep at it. You know, this is just our opinion from having used all of them for the most part, and you know, just kind of our thoughts. But I think Garmin crushes it for the garage gym athlete, especially if you ever want to get out of the garage and run a lap and actually look at a screen. You're far superior to Whoop and everything else.
Yeah, and I feel like we need to. I don't know. So a coach or one of us, I don't know, somebody needs to actually compare Polar, because I feel like Polar is
Right.
the closest equivalent to the next the biggest competitor, but none of us have had it, and some of our athletes do have it and use it some, but it's just not as big of a brand. And there's another, I think it's Sonuto
Yeah,
is
that's the
also a
one I was
brand,
going
but
to
that's
mention.
more of
Yeah,
that's a that they cater more toward endurance athletes
I'd say
than
Garmin does as well. But yeah,
yeah.
I haven't tried those. So again, we're not saying that they're not in the running. I just, if I've literally never worn it before, I don't feel comfortable, you know, giving you my opinion on it. Even with the Apple Watch Ultra, like I've worn a more recent Apple Watch, but not the Ultra specifically. But after I checked out my father-in-law's, I was like, oh, this is like not that much different. It's just a little bit nicer, bigger screen, all that stuff. I was more comfortable like giving my opinion. So we're really just giving you opinion on things that we've used and everything else. But we know there are other brands out there. I do think Polar is pretty legit. I know that we do have a few athletes who vouch for that, but yeah,
Yeah, they're oh wow. They're just looking at Polar right now. It looks like a smaller profile. Also, you know, same with like endurance type things. They still have a lot of similar features though, and like titanium, solar, sapphire glasses, and such like that. But I don't know much else on, you know, heart rate accuracy, anything, recovery metrics. So you can there's plenty of YouTubers that have channels dedicated just for comparisons.
Yeah, and by all means, if you want to check any of these out, like they're like 30-minute videos on a single watch. It's just crazy that you can like go and dive into these things. But this is
Polar is
just
a
our
little bit
opinion
cheaper too.
from like a
So
garage gym athlete perspective, like what you should wear. So yeah, what's a Polar coming in at? Do you have it pulled up? What's the price of a
yeah, so
Polar?
I think the Garmin, the Phoenix probably comparable one is their Grit X Pro, and they have like a Titan edition. Like their most expensive edition is 650, but right now their Grit X Pro is on sale for 400. So like crazy.
Yeah, and that's more in line with like the Forerunner
Yeah.
on Garmin. So yeah, I think Garmin has some pretty good. They're appropriately priced. The new Epix Pro. Oh, that's one thing I'll say. You don't have it on yours, but I have it on mine. Is the main reason I bought it. The flashlight. So it has a flashlight on my Phoenix. They now added that to all of the Phoenix Pros and all of the Epix Pros, which just goes to show how amazing the damn flashlight is. I use the flashlight 7 times a day, probably. Early in the morning, late at night. I use it when I go early morning runs. It turns on like a strobe, keeps me safe. It is the coolest feature that could possibly be added to a watch. I don't know if I can own a watch again that doesn't have a legitimate dedicated flashlight. So I hope that Garmin is always throwing flashlights on their watches.
I mean, even my version has a quote flashlight, but it's just the screen that goes
Screen
bright.
brightens up. Yeah.
And like, but I
It's
still
totally
use
different. You'll see when you get the new one. You'll see. It's
yeah,
like
but
a
even
real
I still
flashlight.
use a ton.
Yeah.
It's still great for little stuff, pretty close. It's still like I've turned my wrist and it's all not super bright, but if I had that real flashlight, oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, I use it all the damn time.
That plus in their newest version, we just watched the video yesterday because we were like, oh man, we want to get their newest upgraded sevens, the 7 Pros. But that and the heart rate monitor is the main things that I'm like, yeah, I would totally upgrade.
Yeah, the new Pros, they got new heart rate monitors that are supposed to be more accurate. And maybe I'll just have to buy it so I can update the community on it.
Take one for the team.
I'm just gonna have to take one for the team.
I'll get a Polar, and then we'll go from there. We'll just
Hey Joe, you want to buy a 7X Phoenix Solar?
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
Uh,
tell me yours.
all right, so that's it. We'd love to know your thoughts on these things coming from like the garage gym athlete perspective. Are there any other brands we should be checking out? Definitely mention them in the community or whatever. I'm probably not buying any other brand. This is not sponsored by Garmin, but I'm a huge Garmin fan, especially having used everything else. There's not much lacking on the Garmin side anymore. But that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of the community for all of our garage athletes. Remember, if you don't kill comfort, comfort will kill you.